Welcome to Awesome Video Game Memories, where we talk about awesome memories about video games. I'm Ryan, and the game we're going to talk about today is X-Wing on the PC. So, being the big fan of Star Wars that I am, and like many people, I've always wanted to fly one of the starfighters, like the X-Wing, the TIE Fighter, maybe even the Star Destroyer, the Millennium Falcon. So, back in 1993, when LucasArts was still making games, they created X-Wing for us people who wanted to live our dreams of flying one of the starships. So I remember borrowing the original disc version from my friend. It was only like 5 discs. And I remember after I installed it, I couldn't play it because it had that copy protection where you had to enter like you had to enter some text like from the manual in order to proceed, and I didn't really have the manual because I borrowed the disc version from my friend. But it was kind of funny though, like my cousin who also wanted to play this game with me, he remembered like his friend had the manual, and one of the answers to one of the questions for the copy protection was Masasi, kind of like the Masasi temples on Yavin in episode 4. And so like so what I would have to do is I would have to start the game over, so what I had to do was I would have to exit into DOS like over and over until the question came up that I can enter Masasi for. I kind of forgot what the question was, but kind of 1 out of 10 times I was actually able to play this game. But of course that was solved years later when LucasArts released the X-Wing CD-ROM. So when you first start playing this game without a manual or without any help, and back then I didn't even have the internet, this game was very, very difficult for me. I had like no idea what I was doing. I didn't know how to target enemy starships. I couldn't target the TIE Fighters. I didn't know how to switch to proton torpedoes. I was just kind of waving my mouse everywhere and kind of just, I was just kind of like shooting everything. And I would never hit anything, and I would always end up dying or probably failing the mission. So because since my cousin and I had no idea how to play this game, but we really wanted to play this game like really badly because we wanted to live our dreams of like piloting an X-Wing in Star Wars, we split our money on this big X-Wing guide we bought from B. Dalton, if anyone remembers that store at all. Yeah, so I remember the X-Wing guidebook being like this thick, and it was actually pretty cool because it was kind of like half story and half strategy guide. Like the story was about this pilot called Kev Farlander and how he kind of interacts with like Luke Skywalker and the Rebel Alliance. So after kind of reading through the guide, my cousin and I finally got the hang of playing this game. I think the biggest major difference in like learning how to play this game was actually like using the top left and right radars so you can see where your enemy is, and like using the targeting system. And pretty much after that it was pretty smooth sailing from there. I learned how to adjust my shields, adjust my lasers, I learned how to target enemies, I learned how to use photon torpedoes and how to lock onto enemies. But however, I remember the training missions for the X-Wing, the A-Wing, the Y-Wing being pretty easy for the most part. But then once we started doing the tour of duties, that's when the game started getting pretty hard. Yeah, so I remember the tour of duties being pretty tough because you couldn't really use the built-in cheats on the menu, or else you couldn't advance in the missions. So I don't really remember it too well, but I know if you actually die, you mostly tend to eject from your X-Wing, B-Wing, whatever you're piloting at the time, and then you can start the mission over. But however, if you damage your eject button during battle, you can actually die. Like they actually give you like a big funeral, and then you're in a casket. Then they just like toss you into space, and you kind of have to start the tour of duties over. Yeah, so I remember beating the first 2 tour duties. I think there were like 10 missions each, and I remember at the end of the 3rd tour duty is when you actually have to fight against the Death Star, and I was really excited for that. But I was kind of like disappointed in like the mission before the last Death Star mission where you actually go into the trench and have to shoot into the exhaust port. Like you're on the Death Star surface, but you only get like 1 wingmate. I mean, that didn't make any sense to me because like all the previous missions you had like 5 or 10 wingmates, but you only get one, and you're on the Death Star surface. Yeah, so for the trench run, you kind of have to put your shields all the way forward because, you know, like nothing's really going to hit you from the back. And what I did was I dropped all my shields down, I would put my lasers all the way up. And like my speed I think was kind of halfway because I didn't want to lose my shields because like everything's just kind of coming at you in like the Death Star trench. And I remember actually missing the exhaust port like 5 times in a row. I mean, it was like much easier to hit the exhaust port in the Super Nintendo version of the Death Star run. And eventually I was able to beat the Death Star and beat the 3rd tour duty. But then when I got the X-Wing Collector's CD-ROM, I only got kind of halfway through the 4th tour duty, and it got too difficult for me to continue playing, so I just kind of stopped there. Yeah, so to this day I'm still kind of disappointed I wasn't able to beat the last 2 tour duties in X-Wing. I mean, I beat the original 3, but I never got to beat the, you know, like the 2 add-ons that they did with the X-Wing Collector's CD-ROM. Yeah, so X-Wing for the PC was one of my personal favorite games of all time, and it fulfilled everyone's dream of being able to pilot a starfighter in the Star Wars universe, and it paved the way for its superior sequel, TIE Fighter, which I will talk about in a future episode. So unfortunately, you can't really buy X-Wing off websites like Steam or GOG.com. You'll probably have to go to eBay to buy the collector's CD-ROM. And you're gonna have to really configure your DOS box to use it because it's kind of difficult to get it to work. But it is possible, like you can just, you know, Google how to get it to work on DOS box. So that wraps up this episode of Awesome Video Game Memories. I'm Ryan, and if you like this video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you have any personal memories about this game, make sure to leave those in the comments below. And if there's a game that you'd like for us to cover on Awesome Video Game Memories, make sure to leave those in the comments below as well. So may the Force be with you.